Imagine for a moment you're living in a time when food is scarce, and every meal is a challenge to put together. Can you survive? This was the reality during the Great Depression. The Great Depression was a time of profound economic hardship. From the late 20s to the late 30s, the world was gripped by a severe economic downturn. Millions of people were thrown into poverty as jobs disappeared and money became scarce. But perhaps the most pressing challenge for many was the scarcity of food. Widespread unemployment meant that many families could not afford to buy food. With fewer people able to buy goods, farms produced less, leading to a vicious cycle of food shortages. As a result, every morsel of food became precious, and people had to be extraordinarily creative and resourceful with what they had. Families grew their own produce in backyards and vacant lots, turning any available space into a source of sustenance. They learned to make do with less, to stretch meals, and to waste nothing. They preserved their harvests and foraged for wild food. They baked their own bread, canned their own fruits and vegetables, and made their own soap from cooking fats. Nothing was disposable, everything was valuable. And in this harsh reality, communities came together, neighbors shared what they had, and everyone chipped in to help those less fortunate. People bartered goods and services when cash was scarce. They found strength in unity, resilience in adversity. The Great Depression was a time of hardship, yes, but it was also a time of resilience and resourcefulness. It was a time when people learned to make the most of what they had, to value what is truly important, and to survive against all odds. And while we hope to never face such dire circumstances again, the lessons of the Great Depression remain relevant. In a world where we can't take our next meal for granted, where food security is a growing concern, these lessons of survival can guide us in building a resilient and resourceful prepper pantry. Despite the harsh conditions, people found ways to survive, and these survival tactics can still serve us today. During the Great Depression, some foods became staples due to their availability and longevity. Let's delve into what these were. In a time when resources were scarce and every penny counted, the foods people turned to were those that were readily available, affordable, and could sustain a family for a long period. Top on the list were potatoes. This humble tuber was a dietary mainstay, providing essential nutrients like vitamin C and potassium. Potatoes were versatile and could be prepared in a variety of ways, boiled, fried, mashed, or even baked, making them a favorite amongst families. Beans were another staple food during the Great Depression. High in protein and fiber, beans were a cost-effective substitute for meat, which was often too expensive for many families. They could be soaked overnight and slow-cooked the next day, served with bread or cornmeal, providing a hearty and nutritious meal. Speaking of cornmeal, this was another key food item during the Great Depression. Cornmeal was inexpensive and had a longer shelf life than most grains. It could be used to make cornbread, muffins, or used as a filler in other dishes. Its versatility and longevity made it a valuable commodity in a time when food security was uncertain. Canned goods, despite being a bit more expensive, were also a part of the Depression-era diet. Canned fruits, vegetables, and meats provided essential nutrients and added variety to meals. Plus, their long shelf life made them a good investment for the uncertain times. Finally, homegrown vegetables and fruits were a lifeline for many families. Those with access to a garden plot or a backyard could supplement their diet with fresh produce, adding vital nutrients and variety to their meals. These staple foods were not just about survival, they were about resilience and resourcefulness. They demonstrate that in times of hardship, the ability to adapt and make the most of what's available is key. And for the modern prepper, these lessons from the past offer valuable insights for building a resilient and well-stocked pantry. After all, the more things change, the more they stay the same. The Great Depression holds valuable lessons for modern preppers. It teaches us about the importance of being prepared for food shortages. During the Great Depression, the world experienced a crisis of unprecedented proportions. It was a time marked by economic turmoil, with unemployment rates soaring and food shortages becoming a daily reality. But amidst the hardship, there were valuable lessons to be learned. Lessons that can guide modern preppers in preparing for potential future food crises. To start, the Great Depression taught us the importance of self-reliance. People had to get creative, growing their own food, foraging, and preserving what they could. This spirit of self-sufficiency is at the heart of modern prepping. It's not just about stockpiling food, but about gaining the skills and knowledge to be able to fend for oneself, come what may. The era also highlighted the necessity of having a diverse food supply. Relying on a single crop or type of food left people vulnerable when those food sources failed. Today, this translates to the importance of a varied prepper pantry. Having a range of food types ensures you can meet your nutritional needs and provides a buffer against potential shortages of specific items. During the Great Depression, people learned to make do with what they had, stretching meals and resources as far as they could go. They became masters of frugality, finding ways to use every part of the food they had. This mindset is invaluable for modern preppers, teaching us to waste nothing and make the most of our resources. Lastly, the Great Depression showed the importance of community. People banded together, shared resources, and helped each other survive. While prepping often focuses on individual or family survival, it's essential not to overlook the value of community resilience. So what's the takeaway? The Great Depression serves as a stark reminder of the potential for food crises, but it also provides a blueprint for survival. By learning from the past, we can better prepare for the future, building resilient, well-stocked prepper pantries that can weather any storm. The past informs the present, and the Great Depression offers valuable insights for those preparing for a potential food crisis. Storing food for the long term is an art. It requires knowledge, skill, and creativity. And like any art, it's a process of learning, growing, and refining your skills. Now let's delve into the nitty-gritty of long-term food storage. Firstly, it's important to understand that not all foods are created equal when it comes to long-term storage. Foods with high moisture content, for instance, are not ideal for long-term preservation. They are susceptible to spoilage and can attract pests. Items such as grains, beans, and dehydrated or freeze-dried foods, on the other hand, are excellent choices due to their low moisture content and long shelf life. Next, let's talk about packaging. It's crucial to store your food in airtight containers to keep out moisture and pests. Mylar bags, vacuum-sealed bags, and food-grade plastic buckets with tight lids are all good options. Remember, it's not enough just to have the food, you need to protect it too. Temperature also plays a pivotal role in food preservation. Ideally, you want to store your food in a cool, dark place. High temperatures can degrade the quality of your food and shorten its shelf life. So, think basements or pantries away from appliances that generate heat. Now, let's touch on the importance of rotation. It's easy to fall into the trap of out of sight, out of mind with your stored food. However, even the longest-lasting foods have an expiration date. By using the oldest items first and replacing them with new ones, you ensure that nothing goes to waste and your stockpile remains fresh. Last but not least, consider diversifying your food storage. Don't just stockpile one type of food. Variety is not just the spice of life, it's also a key to a balanced diet. Incorporate different food groups to ensure you get all the necessary nutrients. With the right storage techniques, you can ensure your food supply lasts for the long haul. Prepping doesn't have to break the bank. There are budget-friendly ways to build a resilient pantry. Let's start by debunking the myth that you need a fortune to prepare for the unknown. The key is not in spending, but in strategic planning and smart shopping. Firstly, consider buying in bulk. This approach can be cost-effective, especially for non-perishable items such as rice, beans, and pasta. These staples have a long shelf life and can be purchased in large quantities when on sale. But remember, only buy what you will use to avoid waste. Secondly, take advantage of sales and discounts. Keep an eye out for deals on canned goods and dried foods. Again, focus on items with a long shelf life and high nutritional value. A good tip is to sign up for newsletters from your local grocery stores to stay informed about upcoming sales. Next, let's talk about preserving food at home. This can be a fun and fulfilling activity that also saves you money. Canning, drying, and pickling are all effective ways to preserve fresh produce. Not only do these methods extend the life of your food, but they also allow you to enjoy seasonal fruits and vegetables all year round. Now you might be thinking, what about meat? Well, you can also preserve meats at home through methods like smoking, curing, or canning. However, these methods require a bit more skill and equipment, so do your research before diving in. Lastly, consider growing your own food. Even if you live in an apartment, you can grow herbs, sprouts, or even small vegetables in containers. This is not only a cost-effective way to supplement your pantry, but it also ensures you have access to fresh produce. Remember, prepping is not about spending a lot of money, but about planning, resourcefulness, and resilience. So, start small, plan wisely, and gradually build a pantry that will sustain you and your loved ones in times of need.